Joining me on the program, Dr. Bryce Edwards from Victoria University. Kia ora. Thanks for your time today.
Morena, Andrew.
The topic that, probably would have been the leading political story this week, it was the Labour retreat, although that's almost an ironic statement given the election results. And, the first Labour retreat with the current leader, because the last one that we had was the one where Jacinda made the somewhat surprise announcement that she was stepping down.
Yes, so political parties in Parliament have these retreats each year where the MPs from each party go away for a day or two or a weekend just to, do those team building exercises and to look at, what's gone right and wrong in the last year and, plan for the future. So it's a bit of a corporate style thing.
More in the second category, I would imagine, this year. And a much lower catering bill for the Labour Party than the previous year.
Yes, they have half the number of MPs they had for their retreat last year. And normally they have it at the start of the year in January, or maybe sometimes February. But this year they decided to delay it until March. And of course, the Labour Party's in a very difficult place at the moment where, they're not really sure of, how they ended up in the situation they're in and how to fix it. So they're licking their wounds. They're trying to work out, I think who their leader should be. And they say they're all committed to keeping Hipkins at the top. And that probably is the case. But they have some big questions around policies and how they combat this government. And so they've been having debates around tax and whether to bring in a policy of a capital gains tax or a wealth tax. There'll be a few thinking about retirement or promotions and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a lot has changed since the last time they did this. And some commentators are saying that it was the policy bonfires that followed the last retreat that may have at least cemented the defeat that Labour faced. Any thoughts on that, Bryce?
Yes, I mean, it's incredible when you think about it that, 2024, and it was the last retreat, yes, that Jacinda Ardern was the leader of the party and announced that she was leaving. And so a lot has happened. And of course, the bonfire of policies was Chris Hipkins' way of kind of clearing the decks and I think his instincts were correct that Labour and government were seen as trying to do too many things, and that was his way of getting rid of some of the more unpopular ones. But he didn't manage to replace it with anything, and so I think that's where Labour's at now.
And honestly, anything that didn't end up on the bonfire has gone up in flames in the first 100 days of the current government. Is it? I was thinking about this the other day, actually, when the retreat was announced. Is it possible to have a great opposition? I mean, there's certainly a lot less resources for a party in opposition, but I mean, Labour's got some significant challenges ahead. Can you think of an example of a great opposition government in living memory, Bryce? It's certainly a harder wicket to face.
It's always a hard job because you're having to complain a lot, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that because you have to be aggressive, you have to be negative about what the government's doing, and a lot of people don't like negative politics. So if I think back, it was probably the John Key opposition prior to him coming to power. So 2006 to 2008. And he was a fresh face. And so he was able to do a lot of negative campaigning, but at the same time bring in some positive stuff. So he agreed with some of the stuff the government was doing. And he was lucky that he had the polls turning in his favour. But that's not happening at the moment.
And I suppose that little blip just before the first Ardern government as well, that we had Jacinda mania in that brief period that she was leader of the opposition. So perhaps there's a sweet spot there. Also in opposition, of course, and a party that gained seats in the last election, the Greens, having an absolute nightmare of a week. Chloe Swarbrick, of course, the new leader. She would have preferred better headlines this week than what we're facing, Bryce.
Well, we've had two big headlines, haven't we?
Yeah.
After she's been declared the winner, we had Gora's Goroman finally having her day in court
Hmm.
and uh, pleading guilty to the charges of shoplifting.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw the coverage of her on the walk up to the court. She had some minders with her,
Yep.
shining lights in the camera's eyes and things
Hmm.
like that.
Mm.
And I don't think it was a very good look. It didn't look very contrite of her.
Yeah.
It looked like she, had some big tough minders and she was staunching it out. But nonetheless, we're yet to see what the outcome of that is, whether her lawyers argue for diversion or discharge without conviction, and if she is convicted, what sort of sentence she gets. And, that's just been a terrible thing for the Green Party, because remember, this happened over the Christmas New Year
Yeah.
period. And part of the problem was that the Greens had known about it for a few weeks,
Yes.
but they didn't come public with it until they were outed in the media. And it seems the same thing has happened yet
We
again
got
this
a little
week.
bit of deja vu this week, haven't we?
Deja vu with another MP,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So Darlene Tana is a new list MP for the Greens, and as of today, she's been suspended from the Greens um, in relationship to an employment dispute of a company that her husband owns.
Mm.
So Darlene Tana used to be a part shareholder in this company for probably about 10 years.
Yep.
But when she started moving into politics, she got rid of the ownership of this company, stopped being a director. But one of the workers has come forward who is a migrant worker, and he's got some very colourful and quite damning allegations of exploitation by this company. And
Of all of the things to face, exploiting migrant workers in the Green Party, I mean, this is something that they've campaigned against. Uh, this is an extremely bad look, and just wanting to check the timelines again, because this is so deja vu. I understand that senior members of the Green Party knew about this on the 1st of February. We're in a different month now, and possibly
yeah,
we wouldn't be finding out about this if the media hadn't stumbled upon it or
yes.
been given a lead in that regard.
Yes, so uh, the MP, Darlene Tana, went to the party on the 1st of February and said, hey, look, there's a claim against this company,
Yep.
and I'm involved in this claim. There's allegations against me in this claim, and it's from a migrant, saying he's being exploited. I thought you should know about this. And they said, oh, yes, fine, okay,
Yep.
well, as a precaution, we better suspend you from one of your portfolios, the small business portfolio.
Yep.
And they didn't make that public. They kept that secret. And they argue that they kept it secret because this issue, these claims were still in the court, basically. They were
Yep.
going to mediation. So they didn't want they didn't want to influence this case themselves. But then 8 days later, she disclosed that there was a second claim
Mm-hmm.
against the business involving her. Again, nothing changed. And it was only yesterday that you had a journalist approaching the party, saying that he was running a story,
Yep.
essentially asking for comment. And that's when they went, oops, we better totally suspend the Green MP from the caucus, which has happened and been announced this morning. And it sounds a bit like the Greens are unhappy with Tana,
Yep.
suggesting that they weren't aware of the severity of the situation, and that the MP, reading between the lines, they're essentially saying that the MP wasn't upfront with them about everything.
Although, have they learnt nothing in terms of
Yeah.
due process? The Goldridge Garment story was still in the news, and a series of events with almost haunting similarity unfolds, and yet the Green Party decides to be secretive about it, to double down on it, to hide behind due process. Just wanting to get your thoughts on this. Is that a fair excuse? Because we have legal processes for a reason. We want people to get a fair hearing, but transparency in politics, two strikes. This is not
Look,
looking good.
there's no rules, there's no laws about this, about what parties have to do in these situations. And they would have been gambling that this wasn't going to come out and it wouldn't be embarrassing. They rolled the wheel, the roulette wheel,
Yep.
and they lost. And I think they made the wrong decision, and now it's biting them on the bum, and it should be a lesson for them. And I think it really will tarnish their reputation. The Greens, they've really their business model has been one that we are the good guys in Parliament, that we are honest, we don't do all the game playing and the machine politics like Labour and National. We're trustworthy. But it looks like they've changed. And so I think this does huge damage to the party.
Certainly in terms of leadership. Now, tough week for Chloe Swarbrick, and she's been trying to get some oxygen for some other stories and being, a good opposition party leader, but that's just all fallen off the map now. Changes within the Green Party, a different style of leadership required. Do you think Chloe's up for it?
Oh, look, any party leader would really struggle with this one. Chloe Swarbrick, I listened to her on radio this morning, and you didn't see the charm that you've seen from her in the past. She's in a different role now, and I don't think it's the sort of thing she is good for her reputation at all. No, so I kind of sympathise with her, because it's pretty much a hospital pass that she's been thrown here. James Shaw managed to get off the ship just before this cannonball's hit the side.
Yeah, no, some good nautical metaphors there, but for the time being, the ship is sort of lurching to starboard as we head towards the weekend. Bryce, appreciate your commentary as always. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Andrew.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.